Fantastic, thank you.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, and that one for Jenny.
That's for Jen.
I'm quite excited to be giving this presentation and a little bit challenged as well. I only get 20 minutes, and usually when I talk about systems and processes, I get a full day. So I've got to try and compress everything that I can into a very small space in time. So I want to show you how you can replicate yourself and your best team members. I want to show you how you can systemize your business over a period of 90 days. And I want to show you how to do it without having to write a single system, process, or checklist. So hopefully that's something that grabs your attention. So who's this session for? This session is for business owners who already have a little bit of traction. So they need to be clear on who their target audience is. They need to be clear on the products and services that they sell and what problems they solve. Typically speaking, you don't want to be systemizing too early, so you want to have a team in place already. If you've got a bit of a team, then you'll be able to get a little bit of traction and a little bit more leverage. And what you're looking at doing is magnifying what you're already doing. So you're already selling, you're already getting great results. It's just you are the centerpiece of this machine, this business machine that you've built. Now, if you don't fit that criteria, I'm sure you'll still get a lot from the presentation, but you'll get most from this presentation if you kind of fit that criteria. Now, does anybody know who that guy is? Have you read the book, The E-Myth? Yes. And a quote there, he says, if your business depends on you, you don't own a business, you have a job, and it's the worst job in the world because you're working for a lunatic. Now, you've probably already heard some of these ideas of systemization before. Maybe you've gone to a different breakfast before, maybe you've listened to a webinar, and you've heard this idea of systems. So I'm not going to be talking about anything new there, but I want you to, I suppose, to reassure you, if you've tried to systemize your business in the past and you've failed, it's not your fault. Because I think there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of outdated content around the way that you should systemize. People think of these big, thick manuals, franchise manuals that sit on bookshelves that nobody ends up reading. But business has evolved, and so has the way of systemizing your business. The outcome here is to ignite a fire in you, for you to understand that your business is simply a collection of systems. Whether they're documented or not, they're there. Things are happening in your business, you've already got that traction. And I want you to recognize that it is the most important part in your business, and you need to get this down because this is what gives you ultimate freedom, what allows you to scale and then move beyond your business. So the 3 points that we're going to cover and that I'll walk you through, I've positioned these to be able to help break some commonly held myths around systemization. I want to show you how to identify the 10 critical systems in your business that when you identify those systems and you document them, that it changes everything. The misconception is that you're going to need hundreds of business systems, when really it's that whole 80-20 thing. You find the 10 to 20 systems, when you document those, that's what's going to give you the biggest leverage. You don't need to be having hundreds of systems. Then we also want to talk about systems hacking. How do you actually get your team to build the systems for you? And that is absolutely critical, because the fact of the matter is most business owners, typically speaking, are the worst people in the organisation to be doing the documentation. Yet for some reason, most business owners, they feel like they have to solve everything. They have to solve all of the problems. And that works up until a point. You grow your business to one size and you develop all of those skills, but to grow it through to that next level, you actually need to let go of some of those things and then let your team be able to step in and do things for you. And systems and processes are a perfect example of that. Then I also want you to show you how you can swipe and deploy systems. So how you can find some proven systems, processes and checklists, identify who has the knowledge, how to extract it out of their brain and then install it in your business. Because you don't need to have the answer to every question. A better question for you to ask is not how, but who. Not how do you do something, who knows how to do it, how can I get it extracted from their brain, documented, and then move it into your business. So just by way of introduction, I'm the one on the left there, Melissa Crowhurst, she's on the right there. I own a digital agency called Melbourne SEO Services. I worked in that business for over 10 years. In probably about the last 3 years, we systemized that to a point where I extracted myself from the business. I hired a CEO, Melissa. She's now been running that business for the last 18 months. What that's done has allowed me to separate myself from the daily operations of the business. I now work at a more strategic level with her. We talk in terms of business strategy and direction, and then I have her report back to me. And we did that through this process of systemization. And then that's freed me up to work on my passion, which you're going to learn about is System Hub and Systemology. This idea of how do you extract the business owner from the business so they can finally work on it rather than in it. It wasn't always that way though. Like for me, the turning point came in having this little guy here, Nathaniel. He's now 3 and he's got a brother. But when we found out we were pregnant, it was a turning point for me, and I thought, I don't want to be that dad who's always too busy. You know, the business owner who's working in the evenings, working on the weekends, squeezing in work whenever they can. They take their kids up to the swimming pool, they're sitting there on their phone, scrolling through, checking their emails while their kid's getting a swimming lesson. I wanted to be really present. So I decided that I needed to make a change because I was working those 70-hour work weeks. And then I had that insight. I knew intuitively that systems were the way. And then I went on this journey to uncover that and was able to extract myself from the business. Since then, we've worked with, hundreds of businesses in a whole variety of different industries, everything from gutter cleaning through to accounting and plumbers and naturopaths and people who help people sleep better and people who help other people immigrate to Australia. I've worked in lots of different industries. The only reason I tell you that is in case there's a little yeah but monster that appears in your head and says, yeah, that's great, but it won't work for my business. My business is too creative. You can't systemize what I do. Or even if I got systems in place, my team's not going to follow them anyway. You'll have all of these excuses and reasons why it can't be done. And I can tell you, we need to pause those at the moment so we can move through and give you a bit of a breakthrough. So we'll just move through the 3 points. The first one is identifying the critical systems. Now, what is a system? A system for me is, whether I use the word process, checklist, systems, it's just a series of steps that you take to complete something, whether it's documented or not, that creates a consistent outcome. And your business is a collection of these. Whether it's from lead generation through to lead conversion, onboarding clients, to the delivery of the product or service and getting them to come back, it's the same thing. So where do you actually start? And this comes to that whole 80-20 thing, Pareto Principle, and I learnt it from this guy, Mike Rhodes. He's a good friend of mine. He built up a company, he's an ex-E-Myth coach. He built up a company in New Zealand, which was an internet cafe. Because he was an E-Myth coach, he documented the heck out of it, and then he went to sell that business. He got top dollar for the business because the person who bought it thought, I could buy a business here that works without me. Like, it wasn't dependent on Mike. So he got top dollar. That forever got him sold on the idea of systems. Mike moves to Australia because he was in New Zealand and starts up a digital agency. We end up sharing the office together and he starts documenting everything. And I'm like, why are you doing this documentation thing? And he started documenting over 300 systems. And then he stuck up to the wall these bits of paper. Now, each one of those line items, that's not a system. Like, each line item, that's not one system. Each line item is a system. And he had this index stuck to the wall so that everybody in the office would remember to check the systems. And can you imagine what happened? Not a great deal. No one followed it. They didn't get updated. They very quickly got outdated, and it just wasn't effective. And that, for me, gave me a huge insight. The key is to do the 80-20. What are the 20% of the systems that give you the 80% of the impact? Now, the best way for me to do this is by an example. So I want to get someone in the audience to volunteer. Jenny's going to run around with a mic. I'm going to give you a book for anyone who is happy to be my volunteer. And we just want to talk through your business, how you're getting leads all the way through to delivery. So who is going to be? All right up the front here. That makes it very easy. We'll just get a microphone up the front here. And then maybe just to start, Anthony, if you want to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about what you do. Whatever you're most comfortable with.
So, hi, my name is Anthony Getty, and I run a strategic marketing consultancy. So we're in the business of helping medium to large clients to secure new clients in their business.
Perfect. All right, so your target audience, we know, because you had said that in your introduction, which is great. If we think about one product or service that is the central product, because we have to focus on just one thing, that would be a great way for some person to start working with you. What would be that product? Because you probably sell a whole bunch of services.
So just at a high level, what's one thing that we do?
Yeah, like what would be a gateway product to the rest of your product line? What's the first thing that you might sell someone?
A Gaddy pitch.
Okay, so Gaddy pitch. So to start off with, and we think about this in terms of your business, if you've got a little bit of paper you can play along here. The first thing that you need to think about is how are you actually getting attention? So what are some of the ways that you drive awareness to your business? SEO, AdWords, networking, speaking.
You're asking for our
Yes,
examples?
for you, yep.
We MC events for our clients.
MC, so events, yep, what else?
We talk at other people's events.
Yep, talk. So kind of, I mean, that's kind of like speaking, yep.
We use LinkedIn as a tool to drive leads.
Yep, anything else?
We actually build entire business networks and we participate in those networks.
Okay, so networking, cool. And now, as you're doing it yourself and thinking about your own business, you might also have some other ones. What are some other ways that you generate leads? If anyone just wants to yell a couple out. Yeah, website, so SEO, yep, and probably AdWords. You might do some social. So you think about what are the ways that you're driving traffic. The next step in what I call the critical client flow is then, once someone becomes aware of your business, what's the first way that they engage with what it is that you do? Like when they get to, let's say, the website, is there a report they download, a video they watch? Is there anything, not I'm ready to make a purchase, I'm browsing and I'm interested?
Quite often they actually ask to meet me, so we don't have a good flow of entry-level items, probably with the exception of the Gaddy pitch.
Perfect, that's right. So in your business, you might think, is there anything when they get to the website that engages your browsing people, not necessarily your buyers? And you might plug that in there. So the next one, when we move down, how are people making that inquiry to chat with you? Are they doing phone, website, bit of both, email?
Typically it's either email, yep, or they ask somebody else for an introduction to us.
Perfect. Okay, so email or introduction. And then the next one down, when it comes to the sale, how does that work? Is there a discovery call? Do you chat with them first to see if you're a good fit? Do you go straight to proposal?
No, never straight to proposal. So we would typically do a phone discussion where we would qualify whether we think, in fact, we can add value to them or not.
Yep. And let's say, yes, you do. What happens after the phone?
From there, we would do a 60-minute face-to-face strategic interview in which we would qualify in or out of the opportunity. And if we qualify in, we learn in that 60 minutes exactly what we need to learn.
And then after you qualify, do you have any sort of proposal or anything like that?
Absolutely. Yep. So if we qualify at that stage, then we've got what we call a knockout proposal template, which we use, and we populate that based on what we learned.
Is that because you knock it out of the park, or is it because you knock out people that aren't the right fit?
No, it's because we knock it out of the park.
Yeah, nice. Okay, so we do the proposal, and then at that point, let's say I'm ready to go ahead. Do you take money up front, 50-50? Like, do you invoice it all?
Typically, our clients are long-term clients, and we've got a process for inducting them, bringing them on board.
Yep. Yep, so we've got some sort of onboarding. Yep. Okay.
We've probably skipped the steps of terms negotiation before we actually...
Well, we'll just put that as under part of the onboarding. That's all right.
So onboarding, and then there's a much bigger discovery session. Yeah.
And then kind of now we move into the delivery. So everybody's going to have their own type of delivery, how you do what it is that you do. Yep, that sounds good. And then once you've completed or you start work, actually at some point there's going to be some sort of invoicing in there. And then at some point as well, once you get to the end, some sort of handover, or I know you say long-term clients, so you're probably going to keep working with them, but do you have a process then of encouraging them to send business to you through either repeat or referrals or those sorts of things?
Funny, we haven't documented a system of doing that. Quite a lot of that happens, but we haven't documented it.
Perfect.
And we'll typically spend 2.5 years building a client's business and then share all the IP with them along the way, give it back to them.
Fantastic, thank you for being such a great help there. If everyone gives Anthony a thank you for that. We've got one just there. There, I gave it to you. Perfect. So that's the critical client flow. Just by going through those steps, we've identified the main systems within a business. And you focus on those first. Now, everybody thinks, yeah, but my business is different. I was giving this presentation to someone, they owned a jewellery store, and they said, yeah, but my business is different. I don't do proposals. I don't have discovery sessions. And I said to them, well, your business may not be as different as you think it is. We used to own a rock and roll clothing music store many moons ago, and we still went through the critical client flow of getting people into the store. We would then want to get them, once they've tried something on, we get them into the change room, we get them up to the register, and then we'd try and upsell them, we'd get them onto the mailing list so we could continue to communicate with them. So in every business there is a critical client flow. The key is just to keep it very simple. You don't want to overcomplicate things here. The purpose is to identify that 80-20. And hopefully now I'm giving you some, I want to knock out the excuses as we go that, you're not going to be able to systemize because you think it's too much of a tall order. The next one that we need to focus in on is around systems hacking, which is how do we get your team to do it for you? Now, does anyone know this guy, Tim Reed? He runs a podcast called Small Business, Big Marketing. He is a systems dunce. He's a good friend of mine. He helps businesses market their businesses online through marketing, obviously. And he knows systems and processes are important, but he just doesn't like doing it. He's a big picture thinking guy. He just, his eyes glaze over when we start talking about it. So he has this virtual assistant that he's been working with for a while. I'd been talking to him for ages saying, you've got to systemize your business. And he goes, yeah, look, it's just not high on his priority list. He knows it's important, but it's not urgent, so he never ever gets to it. And I said, well, how about you pair me up with your assistant and then I'll help document your business for you. So we started off, we identified the critical client flow. Then I got Tim to start recording the videos of critical client flow steps. He would just record himself doing the task next time he was doing it. Then we would give those videos to Joel, and Joel would do the documentation. I gave him a report. There's a link. This link is on a bit of paper floating around on your table, but it's systemhub.com/template SOP. That is the system for creating systems. So I gave that to Joel and just said, follow this, watch Tim's video and create the documentation. Within about 90 days, we documented Tim's critical client flow. He runs a 7-figure business, putting out this podcast, and we were able to document all the key steps in the delivery of that. So now as he's got staff coming and going, he just plugs them in and they can follow the system and the process to get the consistent result. So the whole takeaway here is just recognize it and say that's okay. You are the worst person in your business to be doing the processes and the procedures. This is something that needs to be delegated. Everybody likes to edit. No one likes to write from a blank screen. So if someone gives you some documentation that's halfway there, you'll be fine to edit it. And it's much easier for you to do. But if you're looking at a blank page, you'll never ever get around to it. This is something that should be delegated. And the final thing we need to talk about is swipe and deploy. Where do you get access to systems and not always think that you need to solve the problem? So I did some work with Michael Gerber going back a couple of years ago now, or actually, a couple of years ago. The last book in his E-Myth series is called Beyond the E-Myth. And that book was the first book they decided to self-publish. So rather than going to HarperCollins like they had for every other book, they decided that they wanted to maintain the full control of that. And his wife saw me launch my book, Authority Content, liked what I did to get the Amazon bestseller, and she said, can you do it for Michael? So I did it for Michael. We got Amazon bestseller. I mean, that's a whole story in itself. Flew over to the States. That was fantastic. But what I learnt later was that part of Michael's business is he finds co-authors for books. So it is E-Myth for accountants, E-Myth for lawyers, E-Myth for plumbing, real estate agents, all those sorts of things. And he finds these people, and then part of what he does, you pay a nice royalty to have that privilege, to have your name next to his, but then he wanted to have an upsell service where he would then help you market the book to guarantee that you got an Amazon bestseller status. So he worked with me, we documented the process of the way it was done, and then he now uses that as an upsell service to when he launches books. And I found that really interesting. So this idea that you can work with someone who has that knowledge, document that process, and then it becomes part of your business. So think in terms of your business. If you don't know how to do something, if you want to know how to reconcile an account or something like that in Xero, go to your accountant, tell him, hey, I want a process for this particular step. Whether you do it over Zoom or go to webinar, record him doing the task, get someone else to document it. So just get out of your own head thinking that you need to be the one that has that knowledge. So very quickly, we've kind of gone through those three main myths that I wanted to blow away. Firstly, that you're going to need a whole bunch of systems. You don't. You only need 10 to 20 systems, and that will change the game and give you some freedom. Secondly, that you need to be the one that creates the systems. No, you don't. In fact, you're probably the worst person to do it. And the third one is that you need to have all of the answers. You don't. You just go out and find out who already knows how to do what you want to do, and then you document it. So hopefully you had a little bit of a light globe moment, get you to rethink about the way to do systems. If I had a little bit more time, I'd tell you about Systemology. It's the system for systemizing business that I've developed and been working on, and some different tools. My dream is to free all business owners worldwide from the daily operations of running their business. My business is now running. I've separated myself from that, and I want to show other business owners how to do it, because that's where the magic happens, when you've got that space. And if I had time, I'd tell you about Jamie from Absolute Immigrations and how we did a critical client flow for him. And then he went away to Chile for a month. I worked with his staff, and we got his entire business documented. At the moment, I'm in the process of writing another book called Systemology, and I'm looking for case studies that I can work with for that book. So you'll actually find on the feedback form, if you want to chat and you find that your business meets the criteria, you've got some traction, you've got some team members, you know your product or service, and you would like to remove yourself from that business, then I can take you through that process with Systemology, and I would love to work together and have you as a case study for this methodology. And there's the link, but obviously there's a bit of paper floating around on the table, and that's about all we have in 20 minutes. Thank you.